Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel, kaviwebdesigns. Today we're going to continue with our JavaScript e-course. Previously we learned about JavaScript number methods. Today we're going to learn about JavaScript arrays. An array is a special variable which can hold more than one value. So as you can see in this example over here we have declared a variable called using the const keyword and given it the value of an array, where we are using square brackets to say that it is an array. We are given three values in here: sap, vovo, and b&w. So this is what is called an array. So you may ask, why use arrays? If you have a list of items, a list of cars for example, storing the cars in single variables could look like this. So let's call 1 sap, let's call 2 vovo, let's call 3 bmw. However, what if you want to loop through the cars and find a specific one? And what if you had not 3 but 300? The solution is an array. An array can hold many values under a single name, and you can access the variables by referring to an index number. Creating an array. Using an array literal is the easiest way to create an array. As you can see over here, here's the syntax for an array literal. So as you can see over here, we have declared a variable called array_name and given it the value of an array, where we have given it the value of bracket, where we have given it as item 1, item 2, and we're using square brackets to notify JavaScript that it is an array, not an object or anything like that. It is a common practice to always declare arrays with the const keyword. Learn more about const with arrays in the chapter JavaScript array const. As you can see in this example over here we have declared an array called cars and given the value of sap, vovo, and bmw. So now let's look at this using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see in this code over here in the script tags, we have declared a variable called const, given it the value of an array, where we're using square brackets to indicate that it is an array, and we are given it the value of sap, vovo, and bmw. And over here we're using the document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo, which is in this paragraph over here, and it also happens to be empty. And then we're giving it the value of the variable cars, which is an array. So now let's run this to see what will happen. So as you can see over here, JavaScript will give the output as sap, vovo, and bmw. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. Spaces and line breaks are not important. A declaration can span multiple lines. Spaces and line breaks are not important. A declaration can span multiple lines. So as you can see in this example, here we have declared a variable called const and given it the value of cars. And we have given three items in there: sap, vovo, and bmw. So let's look at this example using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see in this example, here we have declared a variable called cost and given the value of 3 items in there. And we're using square brackets to indicate that this is an array. So we have given the first item as sap, second item as vovo, and third item as bmw. So as you can see over here, we're using line breaks and spaces. And then over here we're using the document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo, and then we're updating the HTML content inside to the value of cost. So as you can see, this paragraph has the ID of demo. It also happens to be empty. But even if you write hello in there, JavaScript will still update the HTML content by replacing it. So now when we run this using Chrome, we will see that we get it as JavaScript arrays, sap, vovo, and bmw. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. You can also create an array and then provide the element. So as you can see in this example, we are declaring a variable called cost and giving it the value of an empty array. And then to that array we are adding more items, such as value of 0 we are adding sap, for cars we are adding vovo, and for the second position we are adding bmw. It's because JavaScript will count from 0. JavaScript will count in array from 0 to 2. But in objects it's not like that, it will only count from 1. So now let's go to Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see over here we have the code from the PPT, and then we are using document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo, and then we're replacing the HTML content inside to the value of cars. So now when we run this using Chrome, as you can see over here we have a header, and the HTML element which has the ID of demo is now updated to sap, vovo, and bmw. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. Using the new JavaScript keyword new, the following example creates an array and assigns values to it. So as you can see over here, we're declaring a variable called cost and giving it the value of an array. But we're not using the array literal. We're using the new keyword to add an array. So now, and then over here we're using brackets instead, just regular brackets instead of square brackets, and we're writing SAP, Volvo, and BMW. So let's look at this example using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So now, as you can see over here we are declaring a variable called cars using the cars keyword and assign it the value of an array. So as you can see over here, we use a new keyword instead of an array literal, and then over here we're using brackets instead of square brackets, and we're writing SAP, Volvo, and BMW. And we're using document.getElement by ID method. We're getting the ID of demo, which is in this paragraph and also happens to be empty. And then we're using inner.html, and then we're updating the HTML content inside to the value of cars. So now let's run this to see what will happen using Chrome. So as you can see over here, we have a heading, and then the paragraph which has the ID of demo is now replaced to SAP, Volvo, and BMW. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. The two examples above do exactly the same. There is no need to use array. For simplicity, readability, and execution speed, we use the array literal method. Accessing array elements. You can access an array element by referring to the index number. So as you can see over here we have declared a variable cars and given it the value of an array. And then we are declaring another variable called car and assign it the value of the first position SAP. So now let's look at this code using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see in this example over here, we have declared a variable called cars and given it the value of SAP, Volvo, and BMW. And then we use the document.getElement by ID method. We're getting the ID of demo and updating the HTML content inside to the value of the first position cars. And then we're updating the HTML content inside to the value of cars. And then we're updating the HTML content inside to the value of the first position in this array. So now let's run this to see what will happen. So as you can see, we'll get a header 2, a paragraph, and an HTML element which has the ID of demo is now replaced with SAP, as because SAP over here is the first element. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. No, array indexes start with 0. 0 is the first element, 1 is the second element. Changing an array element. This statement changes the value of the first element in cars. So as you can see over here, cars square bracket open 0 square bracket close equals OP1. And then as you can see in this example over here, we used the cons keyword and named an array cars. And we are giving it the value of SAP, Volvo, and BMW. And then over here we're changing the first array element to OPE1. So now let's go to Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see, here's the code from our PPT, and then over here we're using the document.getElement by ID method. We're getting the ID of demo, which is over here in this paragraph, and it also happens to be empty. And then over here we are putting the value of cars, but instead of cars we can do square bracket 0. So now it will only show the first element. As since we replaced it, it will show OPEL, OPIL. So now when we run this using Chrome, you see that we'll get it as OPIL over here, as because we have replaced it over here. But if you can replace elements, you can also add elements, right? So if you want to add an element, we can write it as cars square bracket, and then instead of square brackets you can also write dot push, and then it is equals to and we can write it as Lamborghini. And now let's replace this to just cars. Now when we run this using Chrome, you will see that we'll get Opel, Volvo, and BMW. So looks like I did an error over here. Oh right, instead of equal to sign, it should be brackets. It should be brackets instead. And now when we run this using Chrome, we should see Lamborghini. So as you can see over here, we see Opel, Volvo, BMW, and Lamborghini. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. Converting an array to a string. The JavaScript method toString converts an array to a string of array values. So as you can see in this example, we have declared a variable called fruits and given it the value of an array. We're telling that it's an array to JavaScript as because we're using square brackets over here. And then we have written 4 items in there: banana, orange, apple, and mango. And then using the document.getElementById method, we're getting the ID of demo, and we're using inner.html to update the HTML content to fruits.toString. As you can see over here, we're converting the array to a string using .toString. So the result will be banana, orange, apple, mango. So now let's look at this example using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So now, as you can see over here we are declaring a variable called const and given it the value of fruits. And we are given it the value of banana, orange, apple, and mango. We're saying that it's an array as because of this square brackets over here. As you can see over here, we're using the document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo and then updating the HTML content inside to fruits.string. We're using .string over here to convert this array into a string. So now let's run this to see what will happen. So as you can see over here, we have a header 2, a paragraph, and the HTML element which had the ID of demo is now replaced with banana, orange, apple, and mango. And as you can see over here, if we write type of over here, type of, and then now when we run this using Chrome, you see that it will come as string. So as you can see, toString over here converted this array over here into a string. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. Access the full array. With JavaScript, the full array can be accessed by referring to the array name. So as you can see over here, we have declared a variable called cost and given it the value of sap, vovo, and bnw. We're indicating that it's an array using square brackets. And then over here, we're using the document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo and updating the HTML content to course, to the variable course which is holding an array. So now let's go to Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see over here we in the script tag, we have declared a variable called course and assigned it the value of an array. There's 3 items in there: sap, vovo, and bnw. We're indicating that it's an array using the square brackets. And then over here we're using the document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo which is in this paragraph over here and also happens to be empty. And then we are updating the HTML content inside to the value of course, which is over here. Now when we run this using Chrome, you will see that we'll get the entire array sap, vovo, and bnw in this paragraph over here. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. Arrays are objects. Arrays are a special type of object. The type of operator in JavaScript returns objects for arrays, but JavaScript arrays are best described as arrays. Arrays use numbers to access its elements. In this example, person square bracket open 0 square bracket close returns as John. So as you can see, here's an array where we have declared a variable called person and given it the value of 3 items: John, Doe, and 46. And over here we use square brackets to indicate that it is an array. So let's look at this example using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see over here, here's the JavaScript code from our PPT, and over here we're simply using the document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo which is in this paragraph over here and updating the HTML content inside to the value of person to the first item in the variable person. So now when we run this using Chrome, you'll see that we'll get it as John, as because over here the first item is John. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. The length property. The length property of an array returns the length of an array, the number of array elements. For example, we have declared a variable called fruits and given it the value of banana, orange, apple, and mango. And we have declared another variable called length and given it the value of fruits.length. So let's look at this example using Visual Studio Code. So as you can see in this code over here, we have declared a variable called fruits and given it the value of an array. We are indicating that it's an array using this square bracket over here, and we are given this array 4 items: banana, orange, apple, and mango. And we use the document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo which is in this paragraph over here and also happens to be empty. And then we're using inner.html to update the HTML content to the first value of fruits, and we are updating the HTML content to fruits.length. So now when we run this using Chrome, you see that we'll get it as 4, as because over here there's only 4 items in this. So now let's go back to the PPT to learn more. The length property is always more than the highest array index, accessing the first array element. So if you want to access the first array element, you can give it like this. Example, we have declared a variable called fruits and given it the value of an array. We are given it as banana, orange, apple, and mango. And over here we have used select keyword to assign a value, and we have declared another variable called fruit and given the value of fruits square bracket 0 square bracket close. So now let's look at this code using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So as you can see in this code, here we have declared a variable called fruits and given it the value of an array. We're indicating that it's an array using this square brackets over here. And then we are given it 4 items: banana, orange, apple, and mango. We use a document.getElementById method. We're getting the ID of demo, which is in this paragraph over here, and it also happens to be empty. And we're updating the HTML content to fruits square bracket 0 square bracket close. So now when we run this using Chrome, we'll see that it will give it as a heading, heading to a paragraph, and the paragraph which has the ID of demo is now replaced with banana. So this is a way of accessing the first HTML first array element. So what about accessing the last array element? You can just give it the value of the index, but if you don't know the index value, you can give it as in this example over here. So in this example, we have declared a variable called fruits and given it the value of an array. We're indicating that it's an array using this square brackets over here. We have given it the value of banana, orange, apple, and mango. And then over here we are declaring another variable called fruit and given it the value of fruits bracket square bracket fruits dot length -1 square bracket close. So this will always give the last value of this array over here. So let's look at this code using Visual Studio Code to see what will happen. So now as you can see, here's the code from the PPT. And then now when we run this using Chrome, we'll see that we'll get a header 1, a header 2, a paragraph, and the HTML element which has the ID of demo is now replaced with mango. And if you see over here, mango is the last HTML element. So let's test that if it really gives out the last element. So now let's copy paste this a bunch of times. Control C and then Control V. And then let's write a special one over here, such as hi. So now when we run this using Chrome, now you'll see that we'll get it as hi. So it really gives us the last HTML element. So folks, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to support us, please like, share, subscribe to our channel, kaviwebdesigns. Keep on watching our videos and show us some love. Bye and have a nice day. Thank you.